It was 11:47 p.m. when Melissa leaned against the kitchen counter, swirling a glass of cheap wine like she was celebrating something. Her hair was a mess, her lipstick smudged, and her eyes, those same eyes that used to look at me like I was her whole damn world, stared straight through me like I was nothing but noise. She tilted her head and smirked. "You know, being with Jason was a once-in-a-decade fantasy," she said, her voice coated in venom. "He gives me things you never could, not even when you were young, in bed." For a second, the words didn't sink in. They just floated there, ugly and heavy between us. My hands went cold. My stomach twisted so violently I thought I'd puke right there in front of her. Melissa laughed. Laughed. Like she had just told me the punchline to some joke at my expense. I stared at her, feeling something in me snap. Not break. Snap. Like a switch flipped. The kind of switch you don't come back from. I smiled, slow, calm, terrifying even to myself, and said, "All right, I'm going to destroy you both." That was the last night she ever slept under my roof. That was the night the person I thought I married died. And that's when my revenge started. But let's rewind a little. The signs had been there. Hell, they were practically neon lights, but I refused to see them. Melissa had been pulling away for months. Canceling plans. Coming home late, drunk, her clothes rumpled like she'd been rolling around in the back seat of someone's car. She'd laugh off my questions, call me paranoid, tell me I was acting insecure. Insecure men are a turn-off, Tyler. She'd sneer, tossing her purse on the couch like a queen annoyed by her jester. Jason. That was the bastard's name. Jason Carter. One of those pretty boy real estate guys who walked around in custom suits and thought he could buy the world if he flashed enough teeth. I'd met him once, shook his hand at a charity dinner Melissa dragged me to. He smiled at me, all fake warmth, while probably planning how he was going to take my wife from me. God, I was so blind. The real discovery came 2 days before the kitchen showdown. I was fixing the Wi-Fi, something Melissa always claimed was too complicated for her to deal with. As I rebooted the router, her phone buzzed on the table. A message lit up the screen. I wasn't going to look. I swear to God I wasn't. But then I saw it. Last night was insane. Can't stop thinking about your mouth on me. When can we escape again? I froze. The blood drained from my face. My fingers went numb. It wasn't just emotional. It wasn't just some office flirtation. She was betraying me, physically, completely. Over and over again. I clicked into her messages. I don't know why I did it, because some part of me already knew I was about to break my own heart. Pictures, videos, voice notes. One clip, seared into my brain forever, had her whispering, "You make me feel alive." I could never feel this with Tyler, not even back when he was still trying. I sat there on the couch, the world spinning, while Melissa was out getting groceries. And then it got worse. So much worse. Buried deep in her deleted voicemails, I found a recording. One she must have forgotten to erase. It was her, drunk off her mind, talking to one of her friends. Laughing. Bragging. She said she had my permission to betray me. That I was too busy being boring to notice. That even if I found out, she'd spin it so it looked like it was my fault. Hearing it shattered whatever tiny pieces of denial were left in me. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't even throw the damn phone across the room like in the movies. I just stood up. Calm. Cold. Dead inside. And I waited. Waited for her to come back. Waited to hear her lie straight from her crimson lips one more time. Because if she wanted a war, I was ready to burn down everything. The front door slammed shut at exactly 12:19 a.m. Melissa's heels clicked against the hardwood floor, announcing her return like some twisted parade. She hummed under her breath, tossing her keys into the bowl near the entrance without a care in the world. I stayed seated on the couch, watching her. She noticed me immediately, her steps faltering. For a split second, real fear flashed across her face. Then, just as quickly, she masked it with that smug little smile she had perfected. "Still awake?" she asked, pretending innocence so poorly it almost made me laugh. "Almost. You're late," I said, voice low. She shrugged, kicking off her shoes. "Traffic. You know how it is. Lie number 1. You smell like him," I said, standing up. Her mask cracked again, but she held firm. "You're being paranoid, Tyler. Maybe you should get some sleep. You're obviously stressed. Lie number 2. I walked over to the dining table, where I had her phone lying flat, the screen lit up with the damning messages. And the recording queued up, ready to play. She followed my gaze and froze. You're sick for going through my private stuff, she snapped, venom replacing the fake sweetness. No, Melissa, I said, tapping the play button. Her voice filled the room, giggling, mocking me, bragging about betraying me with my so-called permission. She went pale. For the first time all night, she didn't have a comeback ready. I let the recording finish, savoring every second of her squirming. When it ended, I looked her dead in the eyes and asked, "Still want to tell me I'm paranoid?" Silence. Then she laughed, a sharp, brittle sound that cracked the stillness of the night. Fine. You want the truth? You're boring, Tyler. You've been boring for years. Jason makes me feel like a woman again. He gives me attention, makes me feel alive. You're just a placeholder. Every word was a bullet to the chest. You lied to me every single day, I said, my voice shaking more from rage than sadness. You let me believe we still had something real. You did it to yourself, she hissed, crossing her arms. You stopped being exciting. You stopped trying. Jason showed me what I've been missing. And guess what? I don't regret it. There it was. The final betrayal. Not just the physical cheating. No, that would have been almost forgivable compared to this. She enjoyed it. She celebrated it. She relished it. I stared at her, this woman I thought I knew, and realized I was looking at a stranger wearing my wife's face. You're pathetic, she spat, grabbing her purse. You couldn't keep me happy if your life depended on it. Jason gives me things you never could, not even when you were young in bed. It was the second time she said it, like she wanted to drive the knife even deeper. I should have broken then, should have yelled, should have begged, but something inside me turned to ice. I smiled instead. All right, I said calmly. I'm going to destroy you both. She blinked, confused for half a second, and then laughed again, thinking I was bluffing. But she didn't know me anymore. She didn't know what she had awakened. I stepped aside and pointed at the door. Get out. Now. You're done here. Melissa opened her mouth to argue, but I cut her off. You'll leave with whatever you came with. Nothing else. You think Jason will play house with you? Go find out. For once, she didn't have a smart-ass response. She stared at me like she was realizing, too late, that she hadn't just lost her husband. She had lost the man who used to worship the ground she walked on. And he wasn't coming back. She stormed upstairs, probably to grab a bag or call Jason to pick her up. I didn't care. The moment her back disappeared up the stairs, I collapsed into the chair, breathing hard, heart pounding in my ears. I wasn't just ending a marriage tonight. I was beginning a war. And I intended to win. The door slammed one last time around 1 a.m. Melissa was gone. The house that once felt warm, alive, full of laughter and shared memories now felt like a cold, abandoned carcass. I sat there in the dim light of the living room, listening to the silence press against the walls, suffocating, deafening. It was strange. No shouting match, no begging, no pleading. Just finality. Clean, brutal finality. I should have cried. I should have fallen apart. Maybe a better man would have. Instead, I felt hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides and left nothing but rage to rattle around inside my ribs. Her words replayed over and over in my mind like a cursed song. He gives me things you never could, not even when you were young in bed. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. It was her laughing in my face, spitting on every memory we ever built together. I walked through the house like a ghost, each room a reminder of the life I thought we shared. The framed photos from vacations, the birthday cards she had once written full of empty promises, the bed we used to share that now felt like a monument to my stupidity. I found myself standing in the kitchen, staring at the cold coffee pot. Funny how something so simple could feel like a punch to the gut. Melissa used to leave little notes beside it in the mornings. Have a great day, babe. Or miss you already. Lies. All of them. The clock ticked past 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep. Sleep was for people at peace. I pulled out my laptop, fired it up, and started digging. If Melissa thought she could waltz into a new life with Jason without consequences, she didn't know me at all. Jason Carter. Mr. Perfect real estate mogul. I found his profile in minutes. Polished photos, fake motivational quotes, a handful of carefully crafted charity events that painted him as some saint. I scrolled through the lies he posted, seeing the cracks now, the smugness. Beneath that plastic smile was a man with plenty to lose. And I was going to make sure he lost it all. I didn't know exactly how yet, but I didn't need to. Planning revenge was like stitching a wound. It wasn't about rushing. It was about precision. Patience. You don't just hurt people like Melissa and Jason by screaming at them or keying their car. You hurt them where it matters. You take away what they love most. Their reputations. Their illusions. Their carefully built castles of lies. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, my mind already spinning webs. But before any plans could be made, the reality of the night hit me like a freight train. I was alone. She had chosen someone else. She had laughed in my face about it. And worst of all, she had enjoyed hurting me. The rage cracked slightly, and for the first time since she spat those words at me, I felt the grief underneath. I stumbled back from the laptop, dragging myself upstairs to the bedroom that still smelled faintly of her perfume. I ripped the sheets off the bed like they were poisoned. I grabbed the framed photo of us from the nightstand, our wedding night, and stared at it. We looked so happy. What AF asterisk king joke. Without thinking, I hurled the frame across the room. It shattered against the wall, shards scattering across the hardwood floor like broken promises. I sat down hard on the edge of the stripped bed and buried my face in my hands. For a long time, I just sat there, breathing, hurting, hating. But somewhere deep inside the wreckage of my chest, something else stirred. Resolve. Melissa thought she had played me, thought she could trade me in for a shinier model and walk away laughing. She had no idea what kind of man she had turned into an enemy tonight. I wiped my face, stood up, and started gathering every trace of her from my house. Every photo, every piece of clothing, every stupid little knick-knack she left behind. I dumped them all into black garbage bags. By sunrise, there would be no sign Melissa ever existed here. And then, I'd make sure the world knew exactly what kind of woman she really was. By sunrise, the garbage bags sat outside the front door like body bags, the remains of a life I didn't recognize anymore. I didn't even flinch when I dragged them out. I didn't think about the memories packed inside. Memories were for fools. Melissa had taught me that. At 7 a.m. sharp, I drove to the storage unit I rented online overnight. One phone call, a digital payment, and I had my own little vault of hell, ready to swallow everything that used to be us. I dumped her clothes, photos, everything she left behind, locked it up, tossed the key into the nearest river on my way home. It was therapeutic in a savage kind of way, but that was just cleaning house. That wasn't the real revenge. The real revenge would start with Jason. I spent the morning gathering intel. Nothing illegal, yet. Public records, business partnerships, client reviews, anything I could get my hands on without leaving fingerprints. Jason Carter wasn't just some sleazy side piece. He had a reputation. A business empire built on being trustworthy and family-focused. Family-focused, I thought bitterly, staring at the photos of him smiling next to random families on his website. Melissa had picked the perfect hypocrite. And hypocrites fall hard when the truth drags them out into the light. I crafted a plan with the kind of cold detachment that scared even me a little. No messy explosions. No screaming matches in parking lots. No public scenes. No, this needed to be surgical. First, I created an anonymous email account. Then, I compiled a dossier, screenshots of Melissa's messages, the video snippets, the voice notes where she bragged about cheating. I paired them with Jason's business image, highlighting the giant, gaping cracks between his reality and his public persona. I sent the dossier to every major client listed on Jason's website, every sponsor, every charity board he served on, every real estate forum he advertised on. One by one, like setting fire to a line of matches. No names attached. No way to trace it back to me. Just cold, hard truth delivered straight to the people who mattered most to Jason's career. By the time I hit send for the last email, my hands were steady, my breathing even. No second guessing, no regret. Jason Carter was about to find out what happens when you screw another man's wife and laugh about it. And as for Melissa, oh, I wasn't done with her either. She still clung to her perfect social media image. Perfect wife, perfect vacations, perfect life. All eyes stacked on top of each other like a house of cards. I opened up a new account. No followers, no friends. Just an account with one purpose. I uploaded every piece of proof. Blurred faces to avoid lawsuits, but obvious enough for anyone who knew her to recognize her words, her voice, her smirk. Then I tagged her closest friends, her family members, even her coworkers. One by one. No caption. No explanation. Just the truth, left out in the open like a corpse dumped in the middle of the street. It took exactly 17 minutes before her phone started blowing up. She hadn't blocked me yet, probably thought she had won the night before, so I could see her panicking in real time. Messages flooding in. Calls rejected. Statuses being deleted. Accounts locked down. Damage control. It was already too late. By the afternoon, Jason's company issued a statement that he was taking a leave of absence to focus on personal matters. His smiling face vanished from their website. And Melissa? She went silent online, her perfectly curated life crumbling into digital ash. I sat on the couch, watching it all happen, feeling nothing. No joy. No satisfaction. Just emptiness. But it wasn't over yet. Not for me. Because revenge wasn't just about ruining their images. That was too easy. Revenge, real revenge, was about making sure they felt what I felt. Lost. Alone. Betrayed. And if they thought the worst was over, they were about to learn the hard way. I was just getting started. 2 days after I pulled the trigger on their reputations, Melissa showed up at my front door. I almost didn't open it. Almost. But then I figured, why deny myself the pleasure of seeing her fall apart? I opened the door slowly. She was standing there, hair a mess, sunglasses trying to hide puffy, red eyes. Designer purse on one arm, a pathetic little overnight bag slung over her shoulder. Like she was still entitled to come back here. She tried to smile, but it cracked halfway. Tyler, can we talk? I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Calm. Silent. She took that as a yes and barged right past me into the house like she still owned the air inside. I watched her march into the living room, spin around, and start her performance. I know you're mad, she said, hands shaking slightly. I know you're hurt, but you need to understand. Jason manipulated me. I almost laughed. This was her play? After everything? Blame the guy she threw herself at? I wasn't thinking straight, she continued, voice trembling. He told me things, made me feel things I hadn't felt in years. But it didn't mean I stopped loving you. Line number 100 and something. I lost count. You loved me so much you had him. All over you behind my back, I said, voice flat. She flinched like I slapped her. Good. I made mistakes, she said, stepping closer. We both did. The audacity almost knocked me over. I made mistakes. I repeated, voice rising. I worked. I provided. I stayed loyal when every red flag told me not to. You chose to crawl into another man's bed. She shook her head furiously. It wasn't like that. Don't you dare insult me with your lies. I snapped. I heard you. I heard you say I was a placeholder. I heard you laugh about it. Tears spilled over her cheeks. Crocodile tears. Manipulation in liquid form. I was confused, she whispered. I didn't know what I wanted. You knew exactly what you wanted. I cut her off. You wanted to be worshipped. You wanted Jason to make you feel young and desired while I was busting my ass making sure you never had to worry about a damn thing. She dropped the bag with a thud and walked over to me, reaching out like she could still touch me, still fix this with soft hands and empty promises. Tyler, please, she whispered. Give me another chance. Let's go to counseling. We can fix this. I stepped back like she was toxic, because she was. There's no fixing this, Melissa, I said, voice low and dangerous. You didn't break a plate. You burned down the whole damn house. The mask slipped. Just for a second. The fake tears dried up. Her eyes went cold. You think you're so perfect? She spat. You think you're some prize? Please. You're boring. Predictable. That's why Jason happened. You made it easy. There it was. The real her. The venom. The contempt. And it didn't hurt anymore. It just confirmed what I already knew. Melissa wasn't sorry she betrayed me. She was sorry she got caught. She was sorry I fought back instead of rolling over and letting her dance on my ashes. You're leaving, I said coldly. Right now? Or I call the cops and have you trespassed. She sneered. Actually sneered. Like she still thought she could intimidate me. Like I was still the broken man sitting on that couch, reeling from her confession. You'll regret this, she hissed. You're going to die alone. I smiled, slow and cruel. Better alone than rotting next to someone like you. For a long, frozen moment, we just stared at each other. Two strangers. Two enemies. Then she grabbed her bag, stormed out the door, and didn't look back. Good. Because I wasn't done yet. If Melissa thought she had seen the worst of me, if Jason thought hiding behind lawyers and fake apologies would save him, they were both about to learn. When you burn a loyal man, you don't just light a match. You start a wildfire. And I was just getting warmed up, Jason Carter thought he could handle the fire. Thought he could buy his way out of the chaos I unleashed. Wrong. By the end of the week, his empire was crumbling like a sandcastle in a hurricane. The clients I emailed? They weren't just angry, they were furious. Turns out, when you brand yourself as the family man realtor, having your name splashed across screenshots of sordid affairs doesn't sit well with soccer moms trying to buy their dream homes. One by one, his biggest contracts canceled. His real estate firm issued a hollow, canned apology. But apologies don't stop bleeding when the knife's still in deep. By Thursday, Jason's partners forced him to step down indefinitely. By Friday, his company removed all mentions of him from their website. By Saturday, the local business forums were roasting him alive, anonymously, viciously. Half the town knew. The other half just needed a push. I gave them one. I leaked a little more. A few blurred photos here. A few voice snippets there. Enough to keep the fire roaring, but not enough to get myself legally cornered. I watched it all from my living room, beer in hand, like a man watching his enemies sink into quicksand. And it wasn't just his career. Oh no, Jason's perfect personal life? That blew up too. Turns out, he had a fiancée. Yeah, while he was rolling around with Melissa, he was planning a wedding with some poor woman named Brooke. Brooke found out. How? A little anonymous package. Some printed screenshots. A lovingly crafted letter detailing Jason's extracurricular activities. Nothing cruel. Nothing threatening. Just facts. Painful, inescapable facts. Word spread fast. Brooke dumped him, sold the engagement ring, and posted the receipt online with the caption. Turns out loyalty is priceless. Unlike this ring. $4,200 cash. Thanks for the memories, Jason. The internet devoured it. Jason's humiliation was public, permanent, and poetic. And me? I didn't feel bad. Not even a little. He deserved worse for putting his hands on my wife and laughing about it behind my back. He deserved every whisper, every dirty look, every door slammed in his face. But even as Jason's life unraveled, something unexpected happened. Melissa tried to reach out again. Not directly. She knew better after the last encounter. No, she used mutual friends. Old connections. Even her sister, Emily, who had always secretly thought Melissa was trash in designer heels. Melissa's struggling, Emily texted. She's lost everything. She's saying you ruined her life. I stared at the message for a long moment, letting the bitter irony settle. I ruined her life? No, sweetheart. You did that all by yourself the moment you decided a sweaty backseat fling with Jason Carter was worth more than the life we built. Still, Emily's message stirred something dark and satisfying inside me. Melissa thought she could cheat, humiliate me, and still walk away the victim. She had no idea. I wasn't just watching her burn from afar anymore. I was about to light the next match myself. Because Melissa still had one last thing she cared about, one thing she hadn't gambled away yet. Her career. She worked for a small marketing agency. A tight-knit group. Reputation mattered. Image mattered. Loyalty mattered. Funny thing about marketing firms, they hate scandals. Especially when their employees' personal disasters start leaking into client meetings. I smiled grimly, finishing my beer, feeling the wheels turn in my head. Melissa thought she lost everything already. She hadn't even begun to fall. But she would. Because I wasn't just going to watch her tumble down the mountain she tried to build on my back. I was going to make damn sure she hit every jagged rock on the way down. One by one. Monday morning, I sat at my desk with a cup of black coffee, scrolling through Melissa's company website. There it was, her smiling photo under Senior Brand Strategist. All that polished professionalism, all that fake pride in her commitment to integrity. Integrity. I nearly spit my coffee all over the desk. It took me 20 minutes to put together the package. Just like with Jason, but sharper this time. More targeted. I didn't want to wreck the whole company, just her. Screenshots of the messages with Jason. Audio clips of her laughing about cheating, about lying to her husband, about how people are so gullible when you sell it right. No names needed. No need to drag Jason any deeper. Just Melissa, front and center. I crafted the email carefully, polite, professional, devastating. Subject: regarding the professional conduct of Melissa Green. Sent directly to her boss, her HR department, and the company's largest client. By noon, it exploded. Melissa called me 5 times. I didn't answer. She texted me. Melissa, what did you do? Why would you do this? I'll lose everything. I smiled at the screen like a man watching karma serve itself ice cold. Melissa, please, Tyler. Please stop. I'm begging you. Begging. The same woman who once stood in my kitchen, smirking, telling me I was a boring placeholder, was now groveling like a kicked dog. I didn't even reply. By 3 p.m., a friend who still worked near her office confirmed what I already knew. Melissa had been suspended pending internal investigation. By the end of the week, she'd be fired. No reference. No safety net. Burned from the inside out. And still, she didn't understand. She thought I wanted her back. Thought if she cried enough, if she looked pitiful enough, I'd swoop in and save her. No, this wasn't about saving anyone. This was about justice. That night, she showed up again. No warning. No dignity. Just desperation. She banged on the door like a madwoman, shouting my name into the night. I opened it slowly, calmly, staring her down like the stranger she had become. Melissa was a mess. Hair unwashed, makeup smeared, clothes wrinkled like she hadn't slept in days. I lost my job, she choked out. I have nothing, Tyler. Nothing. I said nothing. You ruined me, she screamed, voice breaking. You ruined my life because I made a mistake. I tilted my head, studying her. Was it a mistake? I asked coldly. Or was it a choice you made over and over again? She went silent, breathing hard, her chest heaving with fury and grief. I loved you, she whimpered. I got confused. I almost laughed. Confused is leaving the stove on, I said. Confused isn't crawling into someone else's bed and bragging about it. She dropped to her knees on my porch, sobbing, begging. I can change, she cried. Please, Tyler. We can fix this. I swear. I leaned down slightly, lowering my voice so she'd hear every syllable. You're not the woman I married, I said. You're not even someone I pity anymore. She sobbed harder, clutching the edge of my jeans like a child begging her parent not to leave. I shook her off. You made your bed, I said, stepping back. Now rot in it. And with that, I closed the door. I didn't slam it. I didn't shout. I just closed it, leaving her on the other side, broken, hollow, alone. Exactly where she left me all those months ago. And this time, I didn't feel hollow. I didn't feel rage. I felt free. For the first time in what felt like forever, the weight was gone. Melissa was just a chapter, no, a warning, in the story of my life. And I was ready to start a new one. On my own terms. Without her. Without lies. Without betrayal. Just me, and the ashes of a past I would never let define me again. It's funny, looking back now. You always think you'll recognize the moment when your life falls apart, like some dramatic scene from a movie. But the truth is, it's quieter than you expect. It's a creeping rot. 1,000 tiny betrayals that you only notice once the whole foundation caves in. Melissa wasn't my whole life. She was just the anchor tied to my ankles while I was drowning. And when I cut her loose, when I let her sink under the weight of her own choices, I realized something that should have been obvious all along. I was never the broken one. She was. She still is. After that night on my porch, Melissa didn't bother trying again. Maybe it finally clicked that the man she thought would always be her safety net had vanished. Or maybe she realized she was truly, utterly alone. Good. She needed to live in the ruins she built with her own 2 hands. As for Jason, last I heard, he packed up and moved out of state. Burned too many bridges here. Even the people who didn't know the full story smelled the stink of failure on him. Karma's funny like that. It doesn't need your help once you give it a little push. And me? I rebuilt. Not quickly. Not easily. Healing isn't some movie montage where you hit the gym, buy a new jacket, and suddenly life's perfect again. Healing is messy. It's sitting in your own house, at 2 a.m., wondering if you were ever enough. It's screaming into pillows because you're too proud to let anyone else hear you break. It's dragging yourself out of bed when your chest feels hollow. But eventually, the days get easier. The breathing gets lighter. The nights get quieter. You start laughing again. Real, deep, gut-shaking laughter. And realize it's been weeks since you thought about her. You realize you don't even hate her anymore. Because hate takes energy. And Melissa Green? She wasn't worth a single drop of it. I got my own place. Smaller, cleaner, full of light. I picked up old hobbies I abandoned for the sake of a marriage I thought I was protecting. I surrounded myself with people who didn't lie, didn't cheat, didn't fake love when it was convenient. And when people asked about her, about the collapse, about the fire I started, I just smiled and said, "It's a long story." Because it is. It's a story about trusting the wrong person, about giving someone all your love and watching them spit it back in your face. But more than that, it's a story about surviving, about rising, about refusing to let betrayal define you. If you're reading this, if you're sitting in a broken house, wondering how the hell everything went so wrong, listen closely. It's not your fault she cheated. It's not your fault she lied. It's not your fault she threw away something good for something cheap and temporary. That's on her. Her weakness, her cowardice, her hunger for validation she could never find in a mirror. You're not broken. You're not ruined. You're not unlovable. You're just standing at the edge of a new life, bruised and battered, but still standing. And standing is enough. For now. Because one day, without even realizing it, you'll look back on this hell and laugh. You'll thank her for showing you exactly what you don't want. You'll realize she wasn't the end of your story. She was just a badly written chapter. One you survived. One you rose from. And when you finally meet someone who deserves you, someone who sees you, truly sees you, you'll realize the truth I learned standing over the ashes of my old life. Sometimes the best thing a liar can do for you is betray you. Because then you finally have permission to walk away and never look back.